Let's have a look at the Stellaris 3.3x beta and the Dev Diary 238. We'll look into the beta from time to time, just to emphasize how that's going. So we have Planetary Ascension tiers. That's coming anew, and what this does is you can make a designation for your planet. For example, like you want an alloy producing planet, you want a rural planet, you want these things. They give you bonuses. Now you can, with Unity, because Unity is the new hot shit, right? You can upgrade the Ascension tiers, and like there's no limit to it, but the cost goes up every time. Once you've unlocked 3 Ascension perks, you can ascend your planets to Ascension Tier 1. This increases all of the effects of the planet's designation by 25%, whether it be technician output from a generator world or trade value on a commercial ring world. Each additional Ascension perk you unlock increases the Ascension tier by 1, an extra 4 tiers unlocked once you unlock all of the perk slots. This lets you ascend planets up to 10 times for a maximum bonus of 250% of the base planetary designation effect. So that's balancing out what you usually get through technology, right? You can get the repeatable technologies, and that gives you a lot of bonuses. But these bonuses are bonuses that you cannot reach through technology only, like orbital bombardment damage, defense army damage. These things are not really instantly connected. I mean, stronghold build speed. And other bonuses cannot be reached by technology, so it's an additional thing. You can see here that's a fully ascended Tier 10 fortress world. Vivalam will break before its defenders, as you can see here. So they have 70% more defense army damage, and orbital bombardment damage is lowered by 35%. Things like that. Ascending a planet costs Unity, a lot of Unity, and this cost is heavily affected by both sprawl and the total number of Ascension tiers you have across your entire empire. Currently it costs the same amount of Unity to raise your first planet to Ascension Tier 2 as it would to raise 2 planets to Ascension Tier 1. So you'll want to pick and choose which planets you want to improve and decide whether you would rather raise all your planets to lower Ascension tiers or focus on reaching the heights of Ascension on your most productive core worlds. And of course the answer to that is whatever you currently need you ascend, right? That is the thing, or you follow a general plan of what you need, and then you'll ascend these things, right? To match what you think you need. They'll be watching that and maybe change that, balance that, whatever. Currently planetary ascension tiers are only lost if a planet permanently changes owners, not merely from temporary occupation, or it is abandoned. So it gets destroyed, or in a war, like if you capture some planets in a war, they will not have ascensions on them. So that's all done with Unity, and we'll have a short dip into Stellaris to have just a look at the Ascension perks. What you need here, for example, to upgrade to Ascension Tier 1, we would need 3 Ascension perks to unlock Ascension Tier 1, and with a relatively small empire, you can see that the cost is 450. And the cost is 450 for every one of the Ascension. What it does is you have these designations here, right? And it multiplies these things with, like, you get 25% more effect. So let's pick something easy. For example, like, let's say you want a forge world, right? To produce alloys. Industrial district build speed, metallurgist upkeep goes up. Is better than normal, and what you get then is you have an even higher district build speed. Like you have around 7.5% more you usually have then. So you would have 32.5% industrial district build speed, and you have less metallurgist upkeep. It would be minus 25% instead of minus 20%. So that's an example for a forger. That's not very effective, but there are others where you have, for example, the output increase that is usually very, very relevant, because the saving stuff saving things is usually for the early game, and what really makes a difference then later is increasing the output, and that's going to make a big difference. So you also have new buildings, right? You have now the autochthon monument, or the temples, or memorialists building, sacrificial temple, and for example, a hive will also now have access to their own variant of the autochthon monument, the so-called sensorium. To further understand the galaxy, our specialized sensory drones need to experience everything it has to offer, and this unity from jobs plus 5% and 1 unity for each ascension perk your empire has taken. Planet limit 1 is yeah, that's a standard thing. It's exactly like the autochthon monument, and so this does two things. First, you maybe want that thing on a planet, on maybe nearly any planet, once you have all ascension perks full, but as you can see, it gives you no jobs, so you have to be a little bit careful about that thing. So if you want jobs, it's not the right thing. It can also help to increase, like a planet that has already a big unity output, for example, from administration. Administration currently now gives, as I'll shortly show you, a lot of unity. As you can see here, we have the administrative offices, and these administrative offices turn consumer goods into unity right now. So they are the unity producing buildings. You can see our bureaucrats here. Each of the bureaucrats produces 6.2 unity. You would build these monuments maybe if you have nothing else, might be effective, but if you have a real bureaucrat planet, then it's more effective. So you can kind of specialize now into the bureaucrat planets a little bit more. And talking about that, like what is the sensorium site like? It's like exactly like something like the energy nexus, or the purification of minerals and so on. Like, it gives you a small bonus for a specialized planet. The generic administrator job is being renamed to politicians, with administrator being the category term for bureaucrats, priests, and other unifying jobs that guide your empire. The bureaucratic colony designation will also be renamed to administrative center to better apply to any of these jobs. So apparently they do similar things, like bureaucrats and priests. So that's that. So we have politicians, you can see here. So if you have good politicians, they produce unity. If you have bad politicians, they divide you. But divide et impera, you know, they divide and then rule themselves. So that, for example, is an administrative center. That's the new designation you would have there. Instead of the bureaucrats, it increases the administrator output by 10% and decreases the administrator upkeep by 10%. That's a very good thing to scale up with the ascension of planets later on. Like, it would give you then 12%, and minus 12% would be really good. 12.5, yeah. Civics like technocracies, merchant guilds have been modified to no longer grant incidental unity bonuses. Technocracy is actually changing quite a bit. It will now grant one more research option, and the research expertise bonuses, such as expertise voidcraft, your scientists are doubled when selecting technologies to offer. That is a huge thing if you have many scientists. But there's of course something to that, right? It's very hard now to spam leaders. Before, you would just have a couple of leaders, they would cost nearly nothing in energy, and bam, you're set. But now these leaders cost unity. They not only cost unity to get them, 200 unity, they also cost unity as upkeep. And that's something crazy. Like, I had around 6 or 7 of the leaders. Like, from the start, you usually get a couple of scientists, right? And then you have 6, 7 leaders. And then the upkeep for these was like 22, I think 20 or 22 unity per month. And that's quite a bunch when you have at the start maybe 15 to 30 unity. So that's quite stopping you from getting up these traditions. So scientists, that's a more, they are still really good, but it's a much crazier decision. Like, cannot say, hey, I'll take that one. No, I'll take that one. Or I'll throw out that one. No, that all of that really, really hurts. So technocracy will help when you like switch scientists for their specialties too. You should do that now. You should do that. So the general will just put a genius in there. That is gone. Like you'd rather want someone really specialized in there. If you're in a technocracy, you choose the experts. If you're not in a technocracy, you'll probably choose like a genius or a maniac or someone with an AI assistant as your lab worker. So technocratic empires have the ability to better manipulate the technology deck when they're hunting for specific types of technologies. It can also really shape your game, like if you get, because they are so valuable, right? So if you get a militarist guy early on with a technocracy, you might decide to go for, I think I'm going to specialize in military technologies somehow and make really good progress with that. And then I'll play aggressively. Or you get someone with New Worlds bonus, then you might decide to get into New Worlds and terraforming. Just because of the starting selection you get there. So there's that. And we've also heard your feedback regarding the loss of culture workers. We'll see if we can find a good place for them to return, for those of you that prefer creative art to beautiful spreadsheets. Yeah, I mean, theaters and something, that's cultural work, right? The Ministry of Culture and Artisans will be providing the culture and we'll be doing another pass on the buildings to see if there are any other good places to put them. So, there's that. Then there's some new things. A job to die for. One of these changes comes to life in a 3.3 patch as the permanent employment megacorp Civic. What is that? Like that's something like necrophage. It's basically a mega corporation that uses the people after their death. You can build the posthumous employment center. The mega corporation has ensured that its employees will never be out of a job, ever. After the employees' time is up, they will be repurposed for simpler tasks, so that they can still provide for their families and pay off their debts. So they can also go kind of necromancer megacorps, right? So you'll have a zombie megacorps. They also have that they can bring back defeated organic leviathans. That's the cool thing about that is also in there. The megacorp variant of reanimators allows the posthumous employment centers. And then a new opportunity to pay off the debts. The reassigner jobs from the PEC provide organic pop assembly of mortally impaired, well, zombies. The reassigners. Unfortunately for them, it's impossible to fulfill their contracts. Reassigners ensure that once the megacorporation citizen has passed on, their remains will stay at work until the fulfillment of their contract. Yeah, the contract that will never end. So, you will get zombies. Yeah, gonna be zombies. They cannot generate leaders. Resources from jobs minus 25%, but no pop upkeep. Pop upkeep reduced by 100%. No ruler or specialist jobs. This is probably gonna be very good in the early game where pop upkeep is the bigger problem. Like in the end game, when pop upkeep is not really relevant anymore and productivity counts, then this will be a rather bad thing. But at the start, this is something extremely good for you. Zombies cannot produce leaders, have no happiness, infertile, can only work workers trader jobs, but on the high side they don't have any upkeep and won't ask for any more raises. And there are more interesting interactions to find during our own gameplay, and I'll test that now from time to time. I'll give you a short look over the small empire I've played a few years into. As you can see, I've built a relatively standard empire with a technocracy, because I wanted to try out the new technocracy. As you can see, capital buildings replace some politician jobs with science directors. Twice a higher chance to discover a technology that falls within their field of study. So that's a pretty cool thing. So we can discover technologies here too, and the rest didn't change too much. But you can see in the Unity thing, what is consumed is 13 by leaders, for example. So we'll have a look at the leaders that we have, and you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leaders currently. These 7 leaders translate into 13 consumed Unity, which is quite a lot at the start. Later on it will not be so relevant, but at the start it's a pretty big difference. Then there's edicts, as you can see here. These edicts look the same, but they are also totally different. This, the edicts fund, is what you can expend per month without paying for it. So you get 25 Unity per month available. That will not translate into the Unity you gain. That can only be used for the edict fund. You can go over that by choosing additional ones. As you can see here, this has an upkeep of 19. Map the Stars also has an upkeep of 19 Unity at the moment. If you add others, you won't have to pay much, but it will just, everything that goes over the edicts fund, like over that 25, you will have to pay in Unity. So next month we would have negative Unity. Unity would be going down then. Then you have these things, as you can see, education campaign and recycling campaign. They used to scale, like, and you would pick them every X years, like every 10 years, or depending on how good your leaders was, how good the edict modifiers were. But now it lasts until cancelled, and it needs, in that case, a lot of energy. And in that case, because of our Emperor Sprawl of 90% for some reason, so we would have to pay 95 energy for the education campaign to be running. So it also has an advantage because you can instantly adopt it. It doesn't cost you anything to adopt it, but it also is really, really expensive. It's really expensive. And there's a couple of other changes that go into that. Let me show you about the decisions here. You can see that C's robot assembly, for example, costs you something. Costs 250 Unity, but that's only a one thing. Claire Martial Law costs 500, discourage planetary growth 250. Luxury goods are still there, artifacts sending is still there. What still produces relatively good Unity is indeed your so-called or your former cultural workers, now entertainers. So they produce some Unity upkeep, and they most of all, of course, get you amenities. So it's still good to have them, and they have the additional support of a little bit of Unity, because Unity is now much more valuable than before. You cannot go around and have like 10 science ships exploring. That was possible before. Now it's a much more balanced game. As you can see, we're in 2209, and for some kind of lucky reason, we found 3 planets to be able to settle on, and that worked out well. And also the expansion was easy to handle because mapping the stars, which I usually take when I play scientifically, it didn't cost us influence, so we could use all of that influence to expand here. And that's definitely a big bonus. So you get started more, get started quicker, but it's not a tall game. They said it would be like tall would be better, but it doesn't feel like it would be tall. You can still expand very well, so you're not limited to that. You can also go quickly fill out the traditions, and then you can ascend the planets, which would also be something very effective. And with gaining like 250% bonus to these, for example, in the rural world where you would have then like a, I don't know, 25% worker pop resource output. This can really make a difference, but it will not make up. It will not make up for expansion. So the general strategy of expansion is not wrong. it just has kind of diminishing bonuses because, as you've seen, the Unity scaling for these edicts, for example, and the scaling in general, as you can see here, it's already starting and it's a very small empire so far. The scaling costs you a lot. So what you gain from expanding is just it's just the ability to produce a bigger military early on and to have some more pops available for you. And the question is, how will that balance out? I mean, it will balance out in the way that bigger empires have still more research than smaller empires, but not hugely more so, just a little bit more so. So there might be strategies that experiment with a, I would say, middle-sized empire. I wouldn't call it tall, like you cannot have like 4 planets and flatten the whole galaxy with it. But maybe it's enough to have like 10 or 12 or 15 planets, for example, in this huge galaxy, to be able to really do something out there, at least when you're in the Federation. So, thank you for watching and happy gaming to you. We'll see each other in another instance of this. I'll test out 3.3 and we might, yeah, we'll probably make another Let's Play with empires of probably your design, if you're in for that, and you can already submit them if you want so, and experiment around with the beta patch that is available as an opt-in patch. I also have a video on that on the channel, and I've linked it in the description below. So if you don't know how to activate the beta, then just look into the description. I have the link below and watch the video. It's like 2 minutes long or something. Shows you exactly how to get into the beta and how to get out of the beta if you don't want the beta anymore. So have a great time until then and happy gaming. This is Emmanuel Khan, signing out. See you soon and happy gaming.